Hello, and welcome to another Tomii Healing and Wellness training video.
Hello, and welcome to the Tomii Chi Analyzer summary page analysis. So instead of reading off all of the information, I'm just going to post a link to the Google document. I implore you to look at it and absorb the information, but I am going to give brief notes during this presentation. So this first page, we're focused on this very first line that says Meridian Energy Index. As we can see, the value is 66.7, and that puts us well into the high range. So with this indexes, it's the overall amount of chi that the scan shows from the 24 different points, or the 12 main meridians on the left and right hand side. So this person has high chi. Another way of explaining that is saying that this person has inflammation. When we see something like this, we want to work on the triple burner meridian. Even if it's in the normal range, we still want to work on it because it helps us balance inflammation within the body. The next one we have is energy in the low. So when we see something like this, we see that, wow, they're very low. So it's at 5.8. The issue when they're in the low is that the rest of these graphs are easily going to be affected because let's say they're in the low and they have one meridian that would show up normal in any other scan. Well, that normal meridian is now going to look like it's very high. And the other issue with this is that when we have low energy, it automatically puts the thyroid index into high. Conversely, when we have high energy, it puts the thyroid index into low. We'll explain more as we go along. When we see low energy, what we want to do is we actually want to really work on the upper traps and the neck, and we want to put heat on that area, and that will help to increase the energy. So this next line is our back and front index, or our yang and yin index. Yang is on the back because it deals with the governing vessel, and yin is on the front because it deals with the conception vessel. So when we see that the graph is over here, we would say it's indicative of a yin deficiency. When we see that there's a yin deficiency, we want to increase the Reen channel, right? So we can see that the Reen channel, it starts from the perineum and it goes up. We definitely are not going to touch anywhere around the perineum or even close to the sexual organs in the lower abdomen. Instead, what we can do is we can work in the center of the stomach if we want to, or through the sternum. But the main thing that we will actually do, if necessary, is provide heat to those areas, especially with a heat lamp. All that being said, if we just balance out the appropriate meridians, if we decrease the yins that are high or increase the yangs that are low, that too will help bring balance, and we won't have to deal with touching on the conception vessel. And so over here, we can see we're dealing with a yang deficiency. So what we would do is we would work on the governing vessel or heat it. The governing vessel, we could see, runs right along the spine here. We're going to continue. So we have up and down index. When we see that the graph is all the way over here in the high, this would be indicative of upper body dominance, or we would say that the energy in the upper body meridians is in excess. So when we see something like that, generally speaking, it would be a sign that maybe that person has some level of leg weakness because they don't have enough chi in their lower body, or they might have excessive thinking going on. And we're going to continue to move. Here are some of the meridians associated with it. And next we have lower body meridian chi is too high, right? So we could see up and down index is way in the low. When we see something like this, we assume that this person might have some cognitive deficiencies going on, but generally speaking, we'd assume maybe they have a heavy gait. So it sounds like they have heavy feet. I know a lot of people, myself included, I have up and down imbalance. My lower body meridians are generally lower. I'm not a big dude, but I have really heavy footsteps. And we're going to continue on here. So left and right. So when we see that this is all the way in the high, we would say that, oh, this person is favoring their left side. So that would mean that the scans on the left side were higher than the right. It could be that the left side just had really high scans, or conversely, uh, maybe the right side was actually low. Same thing here. So we can see that, oh, they're favoring the right hand side. I know it's counterintuitive because it's on the left hand side of the graph, but when it's low here, it's going to be for the right side of the body. And once again, it could be that the right side was high, or perhaps the left side meridians were just low. We continue on here. So we see the thyroid. So this is what we had mentioned earlier. So as you can see, the thyroid is in the high, and it corresponds with low chi. So what's important to note is that even though it says it's high, it's actually indicative of hypothyroidism. However, this does not mean that that person has hypothyroidism. If they disclose that they do, that's okay. However, we are not diagnosing anybody, and it could just be a one-off scan. Maybe they've had a really poor night's sleep. Maybe they were very cold. Maybe they've had very poor diet, and it just ended up as low energy in this one scan. And therefore, it shows that they have hypothyroidism because the thyroid gland index is showing up as high. And conversely, we could see that the thyroid is low. It's hard to see right here, but technically this does hit what we would say is the inflammation stage just barely. We're at 55.1, and that's just enough to tilt the scales to make the thyroid show up as low on the index. However, once again, it's counterintuitive, and instead it's indicative of hyperthyroidism. When we see issues with the thyroid gland, what we really like to work on is the top of the upper trap. So when we think about where the lung shoe point is, I would go just above that. It's basically upper trap right at the nape of the neck is what we associate with the thyroid glands. And lastly is our autonomic nerve index. So this might pop up as stress index depending on which version you have. So when we say stress, we're not talking about inherently just emotional stress. We're talking about the stress of the nervous system. And so how we generally get this is the difference between the highest and lowest meridians. So if there's a really big gap between high and low, well, then that's going to show up as a lot of internal stress within the body. It's always important to note this. This is affected generally when people come in post work. A lot of times it is higher if they've been active. But that being said, it's also very important to notice because when we have low energy, generally it keeps us out of this area, or at least it keeps us lower in this area. So if we have low energy and we're even in the 2s to 2.5s, you can pretty safely assume that this person actually has even higher stress than is being indicated from the summary page. And that concludes our analysis on the summary page.